Ladies and gentlemen, it's Holy Plot once again. Liam, Jacob, and James as always. Before we get started, I want to remind you to like, comment, and especially subscribe to our channel if you like what we do. This episode, we're going to be talking about the newest edition of My Adventures with Superman. What do we think, fellas? Jacob, how about you start us off?
The first thing I want to talk about in this episode is something that we've complained about. I feel like when I've kind of looked into the online chat around the show, it's been one of the most common complaints, which is the villain situation in the show. People have found the villains a little redundant, a little soulless, and I think that's valid. But I do think this episode rectified that a little bit. I'm curious as to what you guys think.
Yeah, I think so. The villain is Mr. Mxyzptlk, I think, is how it's pronounced. I'm just going to say Mr. M for simplicity's sake. But before this, all the villains that we had were kind of like the tech villains, or they were a proto version of the villain that we know from Superman lore, like Livewire, Parasite, take your pick. Although Parasite was one of the better ones, in my opinion. But this time it was just a full-on, that is Mr. M. Is not like a proto, not Mr. M, but like techified. No, that's just him. So that was really, really cool. And the way he interacted with them throughout the whole episode, I thought was really, it was just more interesting than it has been, where it starts off, you don't know, are they going to do something different with this character, where it's like he's kind of a anti-hero good guy, or is he just totally full of shit, or is he full on evil? So it was really fun. It was easily the most engaging villain we've had so far. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I saw this character in the promo for the last one. I figured it was going to break up the tech villain stuff. I feel like I'm the main person who's mentioned that, kind of thinking that it's an issue. This is why I think it's cool when you mix up how you do the villains. It makes episodes feel different. I think that was even the case with the last episode. Kind of makes them feel less samey. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And it's a cool version of the character. Very different from how it usually is, but I dug it.
Yeah, I mean, out of all of the villain design revisions that they've done, I think this is one of the more inspired choices. It feels like it fits the character and is like a good innovation on what the past has done.
Well, speaking of multiverse, what do we think about that angle? Specifically like the Council of Loises or whatever they were called.
Yeah, so I am not the biggest multiverse fan. I'm not the only one that feels the way about it that you would expect, kind of the multiverse fatigue that you've heard about. We've talked about it. But I did think this episode was fun. It was isolated. There was a little bit of fan service, but I thought it was in good faith. Thought it was a good case of glup shitta. There was some glup shitting in this episode, but I thought it was done well. I didn't think it was tripping over it or anything.
Honestly, I really enjoyed it with all of the League of Lois Lane stuff. It doesn't stop to pause for any cameo. It's just fun Easter eggs in the background. It's I appreciated it. As far as what it did for Lois, I did find it cool that she could kind of compare herself to the older versions of Lois that are more like what we're used to.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice, especially because Twitter or X or whatever has been pretty harsh on this version of Lois.
Not X.
X. So I thought that was nice for her to kind of reflect on that. And I think it shows that, the people making the show are very self-aware, I think, each step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, in multiverse stories, I want it to be a tool used to make the characters reflect on themselves and study themselves. I thought this was a good example of that. I don't think it fell into some of the tropes that we've been seeing recently in comic book stuff. And I feel like when it did lean to that fan service stuff, which we're not going to spoil just yet, it did it in good faith.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fine. It didn't blow my mind. One of my criticisms with it and kind of the whole show in general is that a lot of the art design can feel really samey. I thought when they were on the Lois ship, it was just a sort of a standard stock sci-fi. If you're going to do a wonky multiverse thing, especially after Spider-Verse, I know I keep saying it, but I want you to really lean into it a little bit. So it didn't blow my mind or anything. I wouldn't have been upset if they went a different route with it. If instead of a multiverse Lois force tracking down Mxyzptlk, it was some lanterns or something. I don't know. I digress. It was fine.
I would like to see more than 4 Lois Lane's just
yeah, it just seemed, and they were all this like acted the same but looked a little bit different. I don't know. It's fine.
It's cool though.
What do we think about the romance that has finally kicked off?
Yeah, so I think some of the bumpy, and I think intentionally bumpy, some of the long and hard road to get here has definitely been worth it. This version of these two characters have fantastic chemistry. I'm completely bought on them being like a Lois and Clark. And I mean, I was really enjoying it. I thought it was kind of the tone the show is going for. I felt like it was the best it could be doing with it. Liam?
As far as the romance goes, yeah, I mean it's Superman and Lois. It's gonna happen, so it's very cute. I'll say that. I don't know. I feel like almost there's some magic that the show had at the beginning that is almost lost on me. It's not that the show is dipped in quality at all. Yeah, I don't know. I just want more from the show, I guess. I think what it boils down to is that at the start, it's like this whole new universe, and we're getting reintroduced to these characters, and it's very exciting. And I was excited to see where it would go. And now that we are most of the way done with the season, we're kind of seeing that it's just sort of, it's the story we know, which...
I mean, you're totally valid, but I do completely disagree with you. And I might have blinders on. I probably do. But I think that the show is getting better as it goes. This is probably my favorite episode.
Really?
And I really think that the energy is finally starting to click. So that's very interesting that we disagree.
My opinion on this kind of pushes us to our last topic. If we're okay to talk about spoilers for the last thing.
Yeah, we should give verdicts first, though.
Spoiler warning, excuse me. My verdict is going to be a 7 out of 10.
I'm going to give this... James, what would you give this?
Also a 7, actually.
There we go.
I'm going to give this an 8. Another 8.
Liam sweep. All right, James, what's the story?
Well, this episode does kind of push the plot and the show forward a little bit with teasing what they might explore. But actually, Liam, even though that's maybe what you want, I don't like where they're taking it. So we can talk about that. Jacob, you want to explain where they went?
Yeah, okay. So at the end of the episode, Lois has this file thing she got from the headquarters. And basically, it's like, what would you describe it? It's like a data entry on basically Supermen who have gone rogue. And I know that people do not like that kind of thing, but it just depends on how they do it. I think it is definitely coming from an angle of being critical on the trope, from what I can read so far. And once again, we've only gotten a tease at it, but I don't think this is saying, oh, Superman is evil, or Superman's more interesting when he's evil, or anything like that. I think it's going to be used to reflect on our version of Clark in this show and just the DNA of the character, and let us examine that.
He's not going to turn evil. There's no way. I'm sorry.
You know what? Why you?
Is my lock of the week? My lock of the week is that Lois is going to show him the thing. He's going to be like, these guys turn evil. It's going to really mess him up. He might go fly off to like the Fortress of Solitude adjacent, talk to his dad, figure out where he's from. He's going to come back. He's going to say, no, I'm not going to be evil. I'm a good Superman. And then Lex Luthor, Alex, is going to get the kryptonite, and then the season's going to end. If I'm right, I'll be disappointed. I
don't know. I think for me, we're pretty recent, honestly, in stuff critiquing the evil Superman stuff. Like, it really only started with Superman and Lois. But honestly, the way that I would rather see Superman stuff critique it is just by not acknowledging it. Yeah. I'd rather Superman stuff just be allowed to exist without having to acknowledge and drag the evil Superman stuff into it.
I mean, unfortunately, it has become such a inseparable part of the modern perception of the character. I think they are going to take it in a neat direction. I don't think it's going to be what you think it's going to be, Liam. I think it's going to tie more into Sam Lane. I think it's going to reaffirm a little bit of his skepticism on Superman, and then Lois and Clark and Jimmy are going to have to prove him wrong.
That could be cool. If that's what ends up happening, it'd be better. 7 out of 10 from me.
So-
I think Holy Plot will probably land at a 7.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm down with a 7 still.
Yeah, we still definitely recommend it. I mean, I think some of the criticisms that Liam has are valid, but definitely check it out. Definitely keep watching, and we think it's going in a pretty interesting direction. So unless you guys have anything else, I think that's it for me.
That's it for me.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for checking out this episode. We have a couple more videos coming out from this recording session, and like and subscribe. Thank you.